Hey everyone, spring is here, so that means it's time to get those early summer seed kits started. These will be ready mid to late June if you get them started sometime sort of mid-April to late April. So let's take a look and see what's in the kit. So we've got our instruction kit here. We've got our grow domes with all of our peat pots that we're going to be needing right away, and all of our seeds. So we got 4 different seed packs that we're going to get started indoors. We're going to save these ones. We're going to go outside when we're done with these indoor ones. We'll talk about those in a little bit. We're going to be doing our lettuce inside. We're going to be doing our kale inside, scallions, and the pak choy. And we're going to be doing those all in these little peat pucks here. So the first thing we want to do is organize our domes here. They're all labeled bases, lids. So we'll separate the bases from the lids. We'll get these all laid out and we'll get peat pucks in them. We can soak the peat pucks right in these trays, and you'll notice they have a top and a bottom. The top's got the little hole in it. So if we just line them all up like that, squeeze in, try and squeeze in 7 in each one if you can. They'll soften up as we add water to them. And 6 in that one. There we go. What we're going to do now is we're going to fill these trays with water and let them soak for roughly 15 minutes until they soak up all that water. So we're just adding water almost all the way to the top. It'll soak up all this water, and if there's any left over at the end, we can just pour it out. So our pots are all fully expanded now, so we're going to start planting our seeds. We're going to start with the first one on the list, scallions. You can see these seeds are quite small. So I'm going to grab 2 or 3 and put them in each one of the holes. And just squeeze them gently, squeeze a little bit of the soil back on top. Close them all up. If you've got extra seeds, you can put those back in the pack. Just in case some of these don't grow, you can always direct seed these later on. Now we'll do the kale, same way as the scallions. In fact, the kale seeds are just as small, if not smaller. Be careful, they're little tiny balls, so they do like to roll. So again, with these ones, 3 or 4 seeds in each one. They don't have the greatest germination rate. So that means not all of the seeds are going to grow. And even if they do, we'll show you how to deal with the extra ones in the next video. Next one on our list is going to be the lettuce. Now, if we look at these lettuce seeds, these ones right here are coated. They put a coating of clay on the outside. It makes them easier to handle because lettuce seeds are really long and skinny, really hard to handle. If you don't have these ones, if you have the uncoated seeds, you're going to want to take 3 or 4 seeds, take your time with that one, and put it in each hole. Because we've got the coated ones, we're just going to put 1 in each hole. They've got multiple seeds in here already. So we don't want to add too many seeds because that's just going to be a waste. We can save all these ones, plant them in your garden if you've got extra space. Squeeze and close them all up. And there we're done. Last on the list, the pak choy. You'll notice these seeds look very familiar. In fact, they look like kale seeds. Very tall, very small, round, tiny balls. So again, we're going to do 3 or 4. I usually just take a pinch. If I get a few too many, that's okay. We can get rid of them. Pak choy and kale are cousins. Hence why their seeds look so similar. So when we're done planting all of the indoor stuff, we can take our lids, close these guys up. There's still plenty of water in those pots, so they don't need to be watered today, but you will want to keep an eye on them. And once we've got our lids on, we'll move these to a nice sunny location. Ideally, if you've got a south-facing window, that's great, but if not, just find a window or an area with a nice bright light that you can put them under. Okay, so we want to be checking on our plants every day. Open them up, let them air out. You can have a nice little chat with them. And check to make sure that the pots are still nice and moist. If you need to, you can add a little bit of water. You want to add about 1 centimeter of water into the tray. Avoid watering on the plants directly. We want to water into the tray. If they're drying out on you, add a little bit more water, water more frequently. You'll probably only need to water every 2 or 3 days with these. You don't want them to stay soaking wet all the time. You also want to rotate the tray around 90 degrees every day because they're constantly going to be growing towards the light. So that's going to help strengthen the plants as well as they grow. All right, so we're ready to go with our outside garden now. And the first thing we want to do is add some amender, add some new soil to the garden, just so that it's got enough nutrients for these new plants to start growing. So we're going to add a little bit down here to our space and work it all in. So now we're just going to work in this amender with our existing soil. You can see the difference of the two colors. That's partly just the water content, but you want to mix it all in so you get a nice even mix. So the next thing I'm going to do, because it's been really hot and dry right now, I'm going to water the garden first. That's going to help working with our seeds and everything like that. Also, if you water after you've put your seeds in, you run the risk of displacing the seeds. So if we give it a whole bunch of water right now, we won't have to add as much water afterwards, and the seeds will stay put where they are. Make sure you give it a really good soak when you're watering, and this goes for once you've planted as well. Watering like this tends to just get to the surface, so we've got to let this soak in and then go over it again. And a good way to tell is if we just sort of push down in there, we can see it's still dry underneath. Everything is still dry underneath. We want that water going down the full length of your finger. So that's how I always check to see that we've got enough water. All right, so now the water is fully penetrated in the garden and we can start working in there. You do want to try and keep the water in the garden as much as possible, not all over yourself like I did. Now what I can do here is I can draw out my 6 squares that we're going to be planting. If you've got a ruler, that's a great way to measure these out. We want 1 foot by 1 foot squares, or 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. I do know that my trowel is 30 centimeters. So if I measure this out, got right here, we're going to come across like this. We'll come across like this. I'm just making some impressions. I'll draw my lines. And there we've got our nice 6 square space to plant in. Behind me here is facing north. So when we look at the plan in a second, we'll know which ones, as best as you can, you want to try and figure out which way is north and line it up to the plan that we have. So looking at our plan now, I know I've got to plant peas, carrots, beets, and cilantro in here today. If we look at our little diagram, we can see the peas are going to go along the north side of the garden as best as you can. We'll do some carrots in the 2 middle squares. We've got some carrots down here at the front, the south end of this front square right here. Beets in the 2 front squares. We also have radishes. You can do your radishes today if you'd like. They do grow really quickly, so I like to keep them closer until midway through the growing period, which for us is going to be about 3 to 4 weeks in. So we're going to start with the carrots because they're sort of the furthest ones that I have to reach to plant. I like to plant from the middle of the garden out towards the edge. I'm going to show you 2 different methods for planting carrots. There's one where you can do it sort of in the square foot plan the way we have it, and I will call that method number 1. Method number 2 is going to be where we do a trench and we sprinkle some seeds along. So I'll show you method number 1 first, and then we'll do the second method. So in the square foot plan, it says we can fit 4 carrots across. So with this, we're going to make a small hole, fingernail deep, to put our carrot seeds in. And these are where our carrots are going to go according to the plan. Carrots are notoriously bad for germinating, so we won't expect all these carrot seeds to actually grow. And then we cover up our holes. So method number 2, I'm doing that in this front, the south end of this front square here, this far corner square. And all I'm going to do, we were poking the holes fingernail deep, so I want to trench about the same depth, fingernail depth. If we just move some of the dirt, we're going to need that for filling it up. We're going to come right across the front. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle some carrot seeds all along the trench, trying to space them out a little bit more so we don't have a bunch of seeds in one place. And this is, again, because of the germination rate on carrots, this is going to just allow us a higher success rate. We'll come along and thin these in a few weeks. I'll show you that in the next video. And we'll leave just the best growing carrots in there. Next, we're going to do our beets. We've got 6 beets to go in 2 separate squares. I'm going to do those just in the holes like we did with the carrots. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to pop 2 seeds in each hole. Fingernail deep again. They're not very big seeds, so we don't want them to go too deep. Cover them up. And then repeat that in the far side square as well. So looking at our plan, our south 3 squares, or our front ones up there, are all done planting. We've got carrots here, our beets are in. This space is going to be for radish. This space is going to be for radish. We've got beets over here. Carrots in here again. In the middle, we've got space left over for pak choys in these 2 squares and some lettuce coming in those 2 squares. All right, so for our 3 northern squares, today we've got to plant some cilantro in this square and this square right here. Peas will be along the back. We've done our carrots here already. We're gonna have kale and we're gonna have some lettuce in here. So let's get started with the cilantro in these 2 squares. And we're only doing 1 cilantro. These are for the scallions, so we're gonna do a hole right here, right in the middle, fingernail deep, not big seeds. I'm gonna pop 4 seeds in each one for these. And cover them up. All right, so the last thing we got to plant out here is peas. And we're going to do a whole row along the north side, 3 in each one. These ones you're going to want to go deeper. I say up to the first knuckle. So I'm going to poke my 3 holes, 1 seed in each one. Cover it up. Repeat in the other 2 squares. All right, so we've got everything planted out here now. The one thing you're going to want to think about it for the next little while, at least, if it stays hot and dry like it has been for the past few days, is watering. So make sure you're watering at least every couple of days. Water very gently so we don't disturb those seeds, but make sure you're getting a nice deep water in there so that there's plenty of water for those, because if they dry out once they've germinated, they'll be done and you'll have to reseed them. We'll be back in like 3 weeks. We'll talk about transplanting and what you're going to need to do to take care of all your plants for the next couple of months, and we'll see you then. All right.